Okay, welcome to our media availability for the Connecticut Sun. I'm going to have Darius start with a quick opening statement, then Stephanie follow up, and then we will open it up for questions for Jen, Darius, and Stephanie. Darius, go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. We're extremely excited about the 2023 season and the roster we have assembled to compete. And so we're really happy that we have the opportunity to just talk to you guys today and just answer any questions that you have. And I'll let Steph kind of talk more in detail about the team.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I think first and foremost, just really excited about the opportunity that we have in front of us. Being able to certainly retain Brianna Jones and Tisha Heidemann was big for us. And being able to add some quality depth on the interior and on the perimeter, address some of our three-point shooting that we needed to address as well, and continue to add pieces that are going to allow us to compete for a championship. I think that Darius did an outstanding job of identifying players who fit what Connecticut Sun basketball is about, and we were able to go out and to get them, and we're really looking forward to getting everybody back and getting on the floor.
Okay, taking any questions? Ben, go ahead.
Yeah, hey guys. I appreciate you making some more time. Stephanie, this one's for you. Did you go back? Obviously, you were not there during the finals, but did you go back and watch that tape and evaluate it, whether it's on a game-by-game basis or on a series basis, and kind of think about, I don't know, what you would have done differently or what you wish the team would happen going forward? Do you evaluate that tape at all, or is it new philosophy, new regime, and kind of that's really in the past?
Well, you certainly look at the tape just to identify, players' strengths and weaknesses, different positions that you can put players in to be successful. I was fortunate to be able to cover Connecticut last summer while covering games for ESPN. So being able to find tendencies and just look for certain advantages that we can have as we move forward. It is a different system, no doubt about it, particularly offensively. But at the same time, I think the thing for us is to be able to find small advantages that we can utilize throughout the course of a game, throughout the course of a season, and different ways that we can position our players for success. And we knew we were going to have a lot of different pieces. So watching it more for individual players more so than team outcome.
Howard, go ahead.
Thank you guys for taking the time. Really appreciate it. Steph, I want to start with you if I could. You've talked a lot about spacing, and I'm just wondering to what extent you see Rebecca Allen's skill set as something that is in many ways untapped so far here in her WNBA career, and how you plan to utilize her.
Yeah, I think Rebecca's a player who is really going to help us. She's a unique size on the perimeter. She's, I think, an underrated athlete. She's sneaky athletic. She has the ability to stretch the floor. And, I think with the pieces that we have around her, her ability to be a scoring wing player for us is going to be big. We have one of the best facilitators in the game in Alyssa Thomas, and she finds players and she gets them the ball in a timely manner. And so much about great shooters is being able to get the ball on time, get the ball in a position where they're shot ready, and getting a shooter's pass. And I think we have pieces around her that are going to be able to get her the ball in a position for her to be successful. And then I think, you have one of the most efficient players in the league in Bree Jones inside. And, her ability to, I think this year especially, draw double teams, to score inside, to create some mismatch situations, and to force opponents when they're scouting her to collapse on her is going to be big. And I think it'll open up some more perimeter shots for Beck as well. And you know, I think she's a player who's an underrated defender. She's going to help us on the defensive end. She's going to give us that versatility as much defensively as offensively because of her size, length, and athleticism.
It actually leads into a second question. You know, obviously you don't think of AT as your typical prototypical point guard. And in a lot of ways, there's been kind of co-point guards here the last couple of years with AT and Jazz. You have Ty Harris, you have Natisha, but do you think of it when you kind of think about the way you're assembling this offense is like AT is your primary distributor at this point?
Well, she's a point forward in my mind. So she's somebody who is one of the best in the world at being able to get a rebound and bring it down in transition and initiate offense. And we're going to use her like that. You know, we really will have, you know, 3 or 4 ball handlers on the floor potentially that can initiate offense. So it eliminates our need to outlet it to a guard every time. And because she has a great understanding and a high IQ and understands offensive system and where players need to get the ball, you know, it allows us the versatility to be able to use her like that. And a lot of our offense, when we get to the point where we want to get to, is going to be read based, and it's going to be whoever initiates offense and then the action that they go to after that. And I think, you know, having such a high IQ player in the unique position that AT is, we will utilize her to facilitate. We'll utilize her to decision make, and we'll utilize her to get us into things that she thinks are good for our team, because she is a smart basketball player and she understands her teammates really well. And she is one of the best facilitators in the game.
Appreciate it.
Christine, go ahead. We can't hear you, Christine. You want to email me your questions? Okay. Mark, go ahead.
Hey guys, good to see you. So a couple questions. First, I want to start with you, Darius. Obviously, you know, you were in Atlanta with Tip the last couple of years. I was wondering how much that relationship factored into bringing her over to Connecticut.
You know, I think it was, you know, definitely a factor. I think she was also, you know, enticed by the roster we have, you know, wanting to just, you know, have a fresh start and go somewhere where she can compete for a title, I think was one of the reasons why ultimately she decided to come to Connecticut. But we did have a good relationship. I did coach her, you know, spent 5 years with her. So I know her pretty well as a person and as a player. And, you know, talking with the staff, we felt really comfortable about what she could bring to our team. And quite honestly, you know, talking with some of the veterans on our veteran players on our team, they felt really comfortable with adding her and giving us, you know, another weapon.
Yeah, and especially too, I mean, she's playing with Delana right now overseas. So like seeing what that synergy can look like already is pretty exciting. So going over to you, Stephanie, I wanted to ask about Ty Harris. Obviously, you know, she was part of the initial trade. What do you see as her upside and what she can bring to the team? Because obviously she's had a lot of flashes, but has been kind of buried on Dallas's roster. What do you see her really being able to bring this year?
I think Ty has great upside. I mean, obviously, you know, she had a tremendous college career playing for one of the best point guards to ever play the game. And, you know, she has been buried. She hasn't had much of an opportunity to learn how to run a team. Certainly there's room for growth for her. But she's a natural point guard mentality, really good in the 2-man game. And, you know, I think from a natural progression standpoint, she's going to be able to work every day with Breon January and really learn and understand how to be a really good leader in this league. And so much of being a point guard in the WNBA isn't necessarily just about skill set, right? It's about being able to communicate with your teammates. It's understanding time and score. It's understanding how to put your teammates in positions to be successful. Who do we need to get the ball to? When do we need to get it to them? And then how do we get it to them? And so I think Ty has a great opportunity in front of her, but she's not limited because she's a combo guard. She can shoot the ball, she can stretch the floor, and her versatility offensively and defensively really fits where we want to go. I mean, you know, let's not forget Natisha Heidemann played point guard on a team that went to the finals. So she's a player who they can complement one another really well on the floor. And I'm excited that we have that in our backcourt. And I'm excited that each of them have another year of experience. Each of them have tasted success on a number of different levels, and they can bring that to our team.
Yeah, without a doubt. And last thing I really wanted to follow up on too, looking at last night when you were calling the game, you got to, talk to Brene Alexander, who you recruited at Vanderbilt. I was just kind of wondering what that moment was like for you, a little bit of a full circle thing.
Yeah, it was really cool. I'm proud of Nay. She's such a great kid, has worked hard, has been through so much with injury and coming back from injury. And I know that just talking to her, she wasn't as happy with how she'd been playing recently. So it was fun for me to watch her sort of, come out of her shell a little bit and play the way that she's capable of. But for everybody who's coached players that you see go on and have success, it's a really proud moment.
Awesome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Jacqueline, go ahead.
Hey guys, thank you for your time today. I have a few questions, if that's okay. Darius, just to start, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about your trip to Europe and kind of why it was important for you and Stephanie to make that kind of recruiting trip overseas. And, outside of talking to Bree and AT, if any of the training contracts that you guys have signed recently have come out of that trip.
Hi, Jacqueline. Yeah, so, our initial thought with making the trip was, we wanted to go see Brianna Jones first. And we wanted to visit some of our current players as well to, establish a relationship and see them face to face. Try to be different from in the past where, I don't know if a lot of teams have traveled overseas for free agency, and with us having new leadership, new coach, we just wanted to put that personal touch on it. It also gave us an opportunity to, visit with other organizations. They don't get to see WNBA personnel a lot. So establishing those relationships. We visited with some free agents that we went after. Not necessarily anyone in training camp, but we did make, headway with some of their agents to talk about, some of the people we were interested in bringing in this year and for the future. But the trip was important, because I think we wanted to make sure that we let, first of all, our current players know how important they were to us. And also, again, initially we were going there, to visit with, free agents we were going after, especially with Brianna being a priority. And this was before we courted her. So we had already made a plan to make this trip anyway, and we still wanted to go see her and establish that relationship and just really get a chance for her to get to know us and us to get to know her a little bit better.
You've of the training camp contracts you've signed, they have seemed to be these young, versatile forwards, which you've talked about in the past. Is that what you think really comes this last spot on the team comes down to, or are you guys still making moves and expect a lot of that to be handled in camp?
Yeah, I mean, you never know what can happen with, just when you look at everyone's rosters and some of the draft picks they have and who could, be waived or traded or cut. A lot of things can still happen before our season starts. But, in terms of the players we're bringing in camp, these are players that we feel like have a realistic shot of making our roster. And so we wanted to take a really good look at them in camp. And, from a post standpoint, we're still looking for another post player that can shoot the ball from the perimeter, that can add, another dimension, to our post play. So, being able to knock down threes is one of the things we're looking at from a big.
And then Stephanie, quickly for you, you talked about Brianna January and adding her to your staff. What do you expect out of her working with some of these younger guards that you have now?
Yeah, I'm really excited about her being able to work with them. I think first and foremost, her experience in the league speaks for itself. The type of player that she was, the type of worker that she was, the type of pro that she was. And in particular, being able to help young guards learn the nuances of the point guard position, learn the nuances of becoming a great communicator and great leader. And it's so important. And that was a role that Brianna herself had to grow into. And, I think that she will be a great resource. I think she'll be a great asset, and that's just some of the intangibles, not to mention just her basketball IQ, understanding film work on the floor, putting people in positions to be successful and going through the work every day from a player development standpoint in all aspects of the game. I think that she's shown that she's always been a great teammate, always been a great leader. She's been a terrific college coach, and now she has the opportunity to be a great pro coach. And I think the other thing is that they know she's been through it, everything that they're going through in the locker room, on the floor, travel back and forth from overseas. She's lived it. And so her being able to use her example and communicate it to these players, I think is important.
Great, thank you.
Christos?
Hello to everybody. Thank you for doing this. Question for for the coach, Ms. White. First, is there any specific goal, any specific outcome that will make you satisfied at the end of the season?
Sorry, you were cutting out a little bit. Can you ask that again?
Yeah, is there any specific goal, any specific outcome that will make you satisfied at the end of the season?
Well, the goal is always to win a championship. I think that every day that you approach, practice, and certainly it's a long season, but it's a short season, right? So every day is important, but the goal is to win a championship, and, positioning ourselves as best we can for success. And, it's going to be a transition to start. It's going to be a transition in learning a new system, learning a different communication style for us as a staff to find the right rotations, the right positions to put our players in that allow us to be the most efficient team that we can offensively and defensively, and then to position ourselves from a scout perspective to win in this league. And it is imperative, day in and day out, game in and game out, that you make quick adjustments, that you handle whatever comes your way, because anybody who's won a championship at this level knows that it takes a lot of things, and sometimes the stars have to align, and you have to get lucky too. You got to stay healthy. You got to make sure that you're resting your players and being as efficient as possible from a practice standpoint. So certainly, we're going to be a playoff team. We want to be a playoff team. We want to compete for a championship. And I think that ultimately every day we have to focus on just getting a little bit better, coming together a little bit more and finding ways to give ourselves that advantage.
Watching the level of competition and the moves during this off season, what do you need to do as a team to be a winning team as the season goes on?
Well, certainly we don't get away from the identity that this franchise has had in terms of just being a tough, physical, gritty team. I mean, when you have that kind of identity and those types of players, you're always going to give yourself a chance because you're competitive, because you sacrifice for the team, because you execute on both ends of the floor, and that gives yourself the best opportunity for success. So defensively, we've got to be able to execute game plan. We've got to be able to make things tough on great players night in and night out. We've got to be able to be creative in how we want to defend, players and teams, and make life difficult. Offensively, we have to do a really good job as a staff of finding ways to get ourselves good, high quality, open shots, and then our players knock down those shots. There's the margin for error in this league is very small, and so finding ways to be efficient, finding ways to find the slightest bit of advantage is important. There are great coaches in this league, and you can't wait from game to game or half to half or quarter to quarter to adjust. You have to adjust really minute to minute, timeout to timeout, and that's a great challenge for our staff and a great challenge for our team.
Thank you very much. And one question for Mr. Taylor. Watching the team and the group and the bond that you try to build, what will gonna be the biggest strength for the team from your perspective?
I want to make sure I heard that clear. So what do I think the biggest strengths of our team will be this year?
Yes.
Well, first of all, just our veteran leadership. I think that we have, some really good veterans that have won a lot in this league, have won titles, have played together. So one of the biggest strengths, I think, is, the veteran leadership, also our continuity. We've had, players that have played together a very long time together. And so I think that'll be important. And then I think also just our culture. You know, I think our winning culture, our grit don't quit culture, are going to be things that'll carry over and that will help us to continue to be competitive. You know, we'll find. I know Coach Steph and our staff will find the right pieces to be on the floor and win. But I think ultimately those three things are going to put us in a position to win.
Thank you very much. Have a great season.
Thank you.
So I'm going to kick it to Christine's question. She has a question for Stephanie. It's with big free agents going to locations like New York and Las Vegas, the WNBA is moving towards mirroring the NBA in terms of free agency. How do you think this shift affects Connecticut's market?
Well, I think it's you know, it's not unique. We've seen this in other leagues, right? Where you quote unquote super teams and big markets. You know, I think the biggest thing for us in Connecticut is finding players who want to continue to be a part of a franchise that has always been in contention for championships. We have yet to grab it yet, right? We've yet to get it. But at the same time, since this franchise's inception, no matter who the coaches are, no matter who the players are, it's always competed at a high level and put themselves in positions to compete for a championship. And that's unique because oftentimes, you know, you see teams who do it for a while and then they have to reload, right? Then they're at the bottom of the league again, and you have to kind of cycle through that. And this franchise has not done that. So finding players who want to be a part of a winning franchise, who want to be a part of the Connecticut Sun and wear the Connecticut Sun uniform and all that entails. And I think that's why when you target, you know, free agents, it's really important that you find players who fit the culture. You know, we're not a big market like New York. We're not a big market like LA or Chicago. But we like that. There are a lot of advantages that we have being in a small market, and spoken from someone who played in a small market and coached in a small market. You know, the fan support, the connection with our community, the way that this franchise takes care of people and players and staff. I mean, those are qualities that have allowed it to be sustainable and will continue to allow it to be sustainable. You know, I think we've got to continue to be creative. I think we've got to continue to think forward and how we do things. And we've got to be a fun team to play for. You know, our staff has to put together game plans and systems that are fun, because ultimately at the end of the day, you know, great players want to play with other great players. It's who you're playing with, who you're going to battle with really every day, and who you're surrounded with, and how taken care of you are, and that's what's important.
iPhone. I don't know who. Not quite sure who that is.
Oh, this is James.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, James.
Oh yeah. Just one question about talk about a little about the 40-game season and how much you like it, and a little bit about how you're going to take the extra games, and basically, you know, the whole ability now to have more visibility across the country.
Yeah, I mean, certainly each year that you add games, it's a lot of fun because our fans get an opportunity to see our players more often. It also creates some challenges because you're adding more games in a time crunched season. So I think it's really important for us as coaches and our staff, our strength and conditioning staff, our athletic training staff, to make sure that we're really managing our players and our practices well. And all of those things matter, right? From recovery to being efficient with our time and practice, to being, you know, keeping our players as fresh as possible, to their ownership of prehab, rehab, getting in the training room, making sure they're taking care of their bodies. So, you know, from that standpoint, you know, we've got to continue to adjust, but it's not anything new for this league. Every year that you add games, and the season is longer or shorter based on, you know, Olympics and world championships and all of those things. But more than anything, it's an exciting time for our fans because they get to continue to watch our players and continue to watch this league.
Do you think you will see it lead to an expansion of the roster? Because that's always been a big point about how the rosters are so small, and then when someone gets hurt, sometimes you don't have enough players. So you think the league will now, with the expanded season, open itself up to having the rosters be expanded, or at least the ability to pick players off I guess we would say like a non-playing roster, almost like in hockey, where players are well, they're on the team, but they're not on the team.
I don't know if we'll get to that
You
point or
understand, you
not.
understand my question?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if we'll get to that
Oh, you
point or
don't know?
not. I think the exciting thing is that we're talking about league expansion in general, right? You know, I think there are so many factors that come into play with roster expansion, and obviously those are big picture league conversations. Certainly, every coach and every player would love to have more players on the roster. You know, I think that. You know, I'm hopeful that our league will continue to expand, not just in terms of teams, but be able to expand the rosters. But it's one step at a time. We put one foot in front of the other, and we continue to grow as a league, and continue to grow as players. And you know, I think it also makes our league. You know, one thing that makes our league exciting is that there are only 144 spots, and every day you're fighting for a position, and every opportunity that you get to play in this league is you're grateful for, right? And you're grateful for, and you take ownership of it, and you take advantage of it, and understand that you're one of the few.
Okay, we're gonna finish with these last 3 questions from Howard, Ben, and then Jacqueline.
Appreciate it. And Darius, these are for you. Just a couple of macro questions, really. You talked about that getting over the hump and winning the title is the short-term goal as well as the long-term goal. And just looking back on this last couple of months, do you feel as if that is a reasonable expectation for this Connecticut Sun roster in 2023 to be in contention for a title?
Yeah, I do. You know, I still feel very confident and comfortable with the roster we've assembled. You know, I think, you know, you can look at some of the other rosters on paper and maybe think they're the favorite, but you still got to play the game, right? And I think, again, culture and continuity go a long way when trying to put a team together to win a championship. You know, again, a lot of teams have, you know, they have some talent, they do, but you still got to play together and you still got to win. And we just feel like we have a really good combination to be able to compete for a title as well. And so our versatility and again, some of the voids that we filled after last season, we feel really good about being in contention.
And then just related to that, do you expect, you know, obviously life is full of crazy things, but do you expect this roster to largely be the roster you come to training camp with, or do you think there is a potential still for some big changes between now and the start of training camp?
No, I think that this roster is pretty solid. You know, I don't think there'll be any big changes, but you never say never, because you never know what can happen, you know, between now and us, you know, like I said, right before the start of the season. There's a lot, I think there's still a lot of questions to be answered by some teams, so you just never know. But we feel really good about the roster and you know, feel like a majority of what we have will you know, it'll be our roster.
Appreciate it. And even though I didn't ask your question, just wanted to say hi, Jen. Thank you all.
Thank you, Howard.
Ben, go ahead.
Yep. Just following up with some macro draft questions or one or two. You know, I think last year there were 4 first-round picks that weren't involved in any trades. This year, I think there's only 3 picks that were not shuffled and are currently owned by the team that initially owned them. I guess, Darius, like, how do you think the value of a first-round pick has changed in recent years? Or, you know, and asked another way, like, why has there been so much movement of first-round picks across the WNBA in the last year or two?
You know, I think it varies by team and also, you know, where you are, you know, whether you're competing for a championship or you're competing for playoffs, and just kind of what your roster looks like. You know, I think when you have a roster that's really pretty much set, and, you know, unless you feel like there's a player in the draft that can move the needle that much or impact it, you know, it's sometimes people look at first round picks as, you know, some of them are ready to go right away. And some of them, you know, a couple years away, even though, and each draft class is different. You know, there are strong draft classes, there are draft classes that are not as strong. And quite frankly, some of it is, you know, cap related, like what you have on your cap in terms of what you have on your roster and what what voids you need to fill, and then, how much, you have to spend on first round picks. So it kind of varies, I think, year to year. And so, teams get in different cap situations with the cap, and they have to, make moves as necessary.
Yeah. And then, building off that, with Stephanie working for ESPN2 and being in a lot of these college games, like, how do you guys kind of lean on each other in terms of a college scouting perspective? Are you on the road, she's on the road, seeing people in person? How do you kind of communicate, and how does it benefit you guys?
Yeah, I think it helps that, our staff is built of people who have, coaching experience and playing experience. So from Jen, our president, and her involvement with USA Basketball, and then also coaching as well, to Steph, having coached college and the pros, and myself having coached college and kind of being in the W for 5 years. And then not to mention, Morgan and Breon. And so we just have a lot of experience on every level with basketball. So we collaboratively meet, at least once a week, and talk basketball and talk about different games and prospects. And, it's just, sharing that knowledge and getting on the same page, and talking about different players and different scenarios. So we do that at least on a weekly, bi-weekly basis.
Jacqueline?
Hey, just a quick follow-up for Darius. Going off of Ben's question, just wanted to get your quick overview on what you think of this specific 23 draft class, and how do you kind of approach it when you have late second and third round picks?
Yeah, I mean, I think this draft class is really interesting. Some people view it as being top heavy, but ultimately, I think it depends on what needs you need to fill for your team. There could be some shooters that end up being 10, 11, 12 that fall into, a team's hands, and they're happy. I think for us, not having a first round pick, it's all about, just kind of guesstimating who'll be there in those spots in the second and third round, and evaluating what fits best for us. Is that a player that's overseas, that's not quite ready to come over yet and needs some time to develop? So we'll look at all those different scenarios and see what makes the most sense, to continue to build our roster, not just for this year, but for the future years. So, I think everything is a team by team basis on terms of what they need. But, if you ask me my opinion of this draft class, I mean, it's really hard because, you have players that get drafted in the second round that turn out to be really good players. So I don't want to say that it's not a strong draft class. It all depends on the type of person that you're drafting, their work ethic, and kind of what their ceiling is. So just depending on the position you're looking for, it might be a great draft class for you. In terms of for us and where we are, trying to contend for a title, we felt like getting some players with more experience probably fit our need this year.
Great. And just last one for you, Darius. Do you expect everyone to make it to training camp this year?
Knock on wood, I do. I expect everyone to make it to training camp for the most part, and hopefully everybody to be on time. And so that is our hope. And with some of the things happening, natural disasters that we can't control, we'll have to wait and see. So we hope that everyone will be there on time, and that's the plan right now.
Great. Thanks so much, guys. Thank you.
Thank you all for joining us for this media availability. I hope you all have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.